All right. Hi, Ann. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today. I cannot wait to pick your brain. I can't wait even more for you to come be our keynote speaker at the Injectables EDU Summit at Lake Nona, Orlando, Florida, April 25th through 27th, 2025. Just throwing that out there. We're so excited. I have brought you on today. You've been kind enough to say yes to talk about the top things that hold the nurse entrepreneur back. And you are truly an expert in this arena. And could you just tell everybody a little bit about what you're currently doing, some about your background?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I always love to talk with you because I feel like we always have good conversations. So thank you for having me. So my name's Ann Konkoly. I'm a women's health NP and a CNM, a midwife, and then I'm certified as a life and business coach. And I run two businesses. I have one a private practice, and I do hormone replacement therapy and medical weight loss for women in perimenopause and menopause. I love it. See patients about 1 to 2 days a week. And that business is beautiful. It's growing. It's about, 10 grand, a month roughly in revenue. It's just me in the practice. And it's been a great endeavor. And then my second business is that I help NPs in private practice make money. And I love to do that too. I think it's fun. And so I work with a lot of NPs where we just hone in on, kind of that next step stuff. Like, if I'm going to take my, think about or patient experience and really, improve the operational standpoint, what would that look like? And then if I'm going to improve my ability to leave the office so that I can take a vacation but still make money, what would I have to do in order to do that? And what kind of membership model? And then just getting inventive, which I think is fun. This idea of, like what the services that are around me. I mean, I don't know about you, but what's available in Richmond, but like I'm in Cleveland, we've got these very traditional medical models and they don't serve the needs of the people who are coming into them, especially women in midlife. And so I love to just have this idea of what could you put together that could be really supportive. The shit I did today was fantastic. I mean, went through, we were using ChatGPT to come up with, a 7-day meal plan for protein and how to increase zone 2 training so that your resistance training and your metabolic health is better when you're using something like medical weight loss. And that's the shit that I never had time to do, and I love to be able to do it in this way. And it just gets me really excited to, go to work and help people. So I love it. I have those two endeavors. Okay, so you asked me kind of top 3 things that hold us back. Um, well, let me tell you. So this is interesting. This is all going to be framed by this. I'm reading a really good book right now is fantastic, and I just came out of 2 different trainings that I led for my clients. One was coach training where I teach NPs how to coach, and the other was a business accelerator where we get a bunch of private practice owners in the room and have like a fantastic 5, 7, 8 brains together is better than one, and a lot of learning goes on. It's so fun. But anyways, I'm also reading this really good book called Take Back Your Brain by Carl Lowenthal, which she was trained at life coach school where I was trained as a life coach. And so the book is nothing necessarily new to me. It's all concepts that I've, understood and been taught prior. But it's been such a really good refresher on, these things that come up for many of us that hold us back. And so when I start to think of NPs in private practice, the main things that I think of are usually perfectionism, this idea of like, I need to just like get it right before I do it, right? Like I'm in the process of upgrading an EMR right now. And I keep thinking this, like, I have this looping thought in my brain, which is like, it's going to be hard. And I like, I've got a person who can do it, right? I'm working with them and even just giving over control to that person to be like, set this shit up and make it run great. The feeling behind that is kind of one of a lot of uncertainty and a little bit of worry because I'm giving up, heating control and excited to see what she can do with it. Very pleased with the work that she's done for me prior, but it still feels a little bit like, ugh. So that's one. Perfectionism gets in the way of doing a lot of shit, I think. Um, Also the reason probably that some of us don't quickly hire, right? Like we are, kind of want to do it our own way and like think we can just like, oh, I'll just do it. The people pleasing probably gets in the way too. And I see this too, where people start talking about, well, how do I take my revenue and double it? And so, if you think about you as a people pleaser, right? Like, why do we people please? Well, we usually do it because we're trying to avoid a feeling within ourselves, which is if I make you think I look good, or like if I make you feel happy, then I won't have to deal with your discomfort, as if I could ever even control your discomfort, and or like being affected by somebody else's discomfort is totally optional, by the way, right? And so this premise of, if we drop people pleasing, then I just don't think twice when I tell people the rate. I don't think twice about increasing my rates when it's time to increase, the visits. I don't think twice about saying no to people, right? Like, or just saying, I don't, it's not, like not continuing a relationship. And I'm not talking about like stone cold, like up and leaving a patient in the middle of a visit. I'm just talking about transitioning them elsewhere to a better provider or something, right? That's the stuff that it holds us back. It takes up so much brain power and it's exhausting at the end of the day, on top of building a business, which, as you know, is like its own bag of worms, or whatever the saying is. And then this, or can of worms. Fuck, it's like can of worms, isn't it? I'm terrible with colloquialisms. My husband makes fun of me all the time. And then the third thing is probably money. Money is an interesting one, because money gets in the way of a lot of, I think, decisions that we make. And it's not even the day to day, although it can come up in things like pricing, but money comes up when you start talking about, again, are you going to hire the person to do the thing, or are you going to do it yourself, right? And when you go to build a pricing model for your practice, do you include not only a margin on what what you're providing, the service you're providing, but do you include yourself as a line item, the administrative time it takes to build the service, the COGS, of course, and then the taxes, and like, do you consider yourself a line item as someone who is a resource in the practice? And very often I see a lot of MPs who are like, I haven't paid myself. And then I'm like, well, how much do you incorporate into the visits that you have posted, those prices? Like, what do you pay yourself out of there? Or how do you structure your pricing so that it reflects your price in there as a line item, and how you came up with that number? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So money is an interesting one. I also was thinking, I was driving home from work today, and I was just laughing because I was actually thinking about Suzanne. Remember when we were at the last, I don't know if it was at your conference or mine, but she said something to the likes of, I love to have my, with her new space, she was like, I love it when, people come in and they park their big bougie cars right in the front. And she's like, and I love it, right? And this idea of, if you're providing a service where people have an average spend of $200 or $500 or $800, and you aren't thinking about kind of the client experience and the demographic that's coming to you and how to really create this incredible experience for them, it's probably because like you probably have some like money shit going on, right? Because if you don't, and if you don't create that kind of a service, and then you don't make the money that you want to make at the end of the day, like, clearly we have a little bit of work to do. So those are, I think, just off the top of my head, those are ones that I see a lot in the coaching that I do. And I think they're totally normal to have. And we can very easily make some good shifts and start to work with some new concepts that help us get a lot more comfortable with dropping the perfectionism, leaving people pleasing at the door, and then creating incredible services that really, charge for the value that's provided, and in a way that supports us being business owners and building wealth. So
Well,
that's a
and you were
mouthful.
the first person, or might be the only person I heard say this, and I've really adopted it, which is like, do good and do well. Like, do good for your patient and do well for
Hmm.
yourself. And maybe, hopefully, I didn't switch the order, but that really, really stuck with me, because as nurses, money is something, well, society tells nurses, hey, you really don't have to be compensated that highly because you're like doing
Hmm.
God's work or something. And
Hmm.
yes, like we're getting to do our passion, we're helping people, and so that is inherently thankless and not compensated well, or so it's like, I don't know, it's a weird thing, but that's kind of the world in which we have existed professionally, where but meanwhile all around us, lots of people were making money, your companies, the hospital systems, the insurance companies, right? um, so there's a ton of money being made in healthcare. It's just we've been told that we're not the group that gets to participate in that. So then when you come into private practice and it's this whole new approach to money, there's so many things you hit on with money. It's like, and one thing we didn't even talk about is like, how much money do you actually have enough money to start this practice? Do you have saving? This, we're obviously in this like mindset area of like, well, the money that your patient has and your feelings about them paying you that money. How much money do you deserve to be making for the services and paying yourself? So yeah, I like those top three things that you called out. One thing I wanted to point out about you is that with your clinical practice with the weight loss and hormones, you're not even at a year yet on that, right? You're still
Hmm.
in your first year. So
Just hit a year in July, so about 14 months roughly. Yeah.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
within within that pretty much year mark, you're consistently making thousands of dollars a month and really on this very beginner trajectory up.
Yeah.
So, and
It's
you've been coaching for years, and that you had kind of stepped out of the bedside after getting pretty burnt out with like nurse midwife stuff, kind of said, I need to get away from this, did coaching exclusively for a number of years. And then, actually at our conference at Summit, it was Summit 2023 that
That was your like inaugural one, I think.
yeah,
Yep.
um, you saw, got back in touch with this world again, and you're like, I want to jump
Mhm.
back in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
it's kind
Rebecca
of cool.
Bloom. She was like the one who presented on semaglutide, and I was like, this shit's not that complicated. I mean, I mean, and to her credit, she really kind of was like, she laid out, this is how I run a weight loss, medical weight loss practice. And I was like, oh shit, like I'm gonna do that. Like I just remember I will never forget. I was sitting there next to my bestie. I'm like, I'm gonna do that. Like I'm going to fucking do that. And that was
You
that
did.
we
And
were
you
off
know
to
what
the
you
races.
didn't do? You didn't wait for it to be perfect to start.
Huh.
And you didn't do,
Yeah.
we were talking about perfectionism. It made me think a lot about analysis paralysis. Like,
Hmm.
I think that that plays into it. We certainly
Yeah.
see that a lot. You want to find that balance of being thoughtful, but also and having good information, but not, you don't need to, you didn't then go enroll in like three other conferences to validate if you should do this. You did continue to seek more education, but
Yeah.
I think you get what
Yeah.
I'm.
No, I think I think it's funny, right? So I'm switching. I started out with Optomantra. I'm switching over to Hint, which is a EMR, different EMR, not one that was as widely talked about at all. It's more of a DPC model, but um, it's funny because I was thinking about how, do you know, I don't know if you look at this, like I don't do everything fast, but when I know what I know, when I know what my decision is, I move. And I have been dicking around, so to speak, with an EMR, thinking how incredibly clunky Optomantra is, despising it, feeling frustrated with it. I've been looking at other EMRs, and I would call this, and I think you said it really nicely, which is this balance between being thoughtful and also being not procrastinating or not, it's a very strategic way of, it's like strategic procrastination where you're like, I haven't quite found the EMR that fits the bill yet. I know it's coming, but like I'm not gonna just dive into some secondary piece of shit in the hopes that it's like a step up better, right? Because I've done that, I've done that model before, not doing that again. And so all of a sudden I saw a hint and I was like, oh, this gets 90% of what I want. Let's go. And I literally, signed up within, I don't know, a week, reached out to the gal to help her, get her on board so she could help me set it up, emailed Optometry and all that stuff. And so I think it is a bit of, it really is a balance of being thoughtful and knowing kind of what your threshold is for brain bullshit around like, how long do I take to make a decision? Do I give myself overnight to sit on it, think through it, feel it out? Am I somebody who's like at the 2 week mark and I've not made a decision and all of a sudden people are asking me like, hey, what are we doing? And you're like, I don't know. You're like, I don't know, ask somebody else.
In
Cause
our one thing I find myself saying a lot in our mentorship calls to my mentees is there's no right or wrong answer. It just there's a choice that you make, right? Like it will all be all right, or maybe it won't, but like there is no right or wrong answer. So it's this feeling of there's one right name to name your business. I'm probably like my third DBA. There's no
I love that you said that. Everybody is, of course.
yeah.
And like think of how many hours you've spent thinking about a name for your business, like all the iterations it's gone through. I
Yeah, there's
mean,
no one right social media
no.
company, website company, next service to bring on. It's making a choice based on the best evidence that you have. And it's not right or wrong. So that I don't know. That's one thing I tell myself when I'm making a big decision too. Like,
Yeah, we just take the next step, get some more data. I always tell my clients that in coaching, I'm like, look, there's a difference between data and drama, and you have to, as a CEO, know when you're in data or know when you are in drama. And if you are making decisions from drama, you will just invite more drama into your business. And that is a choice. And it is completely and totally optional. But it is a tremendous skill, which I think most of us are very good at, which is coming back to objective data, but you have to train your mind in order to like do that progression of like, okay, it's just a decision. It's not a life or death. We're not right in the bed to the OR right now. If I, choose a EMR, it ends up not it being a total, piece of shit. I could always switch off. Would it be a headache? Would I waste some time and money? 100%. But, live and learn and get some data. We're just getting more data. That's what I kind of tell myself. We're just going out there and getting a little bit more data. That's it. Neither right nor wrong.
one question you can take this either way is like either as what do most people not realize before starting a business, or what something you didn't realize before starting your private practice. And it can be a meld of the two of those things too.
That it could be, um, that it could be easy. It's funny because when I built the coaching business, the coaching is like it's kind of an intangible, so to speak. I talk about this a lot with my clients. Like, it's interesting to sell. If you sell a product like Tox, it's very clear to tell the patient, like, if I put Tox in your face, this is what happens, right? I can tell the patients clearly if we prescribe semaglutide, you start on it, these are our parameters and what we anticipate will happen. And with coaching, it's a little bit different because we're not the variable, the intervention is coaching and the variable is you, right? And so it's sometimes it's a hard sell to like sell people on themselves. Like you're actually, right? You have to think and have some belief in yourself that if you're going to invest in some sort of a coaching program but anyways, I think when you, um, I think when you get started, it's like, my experience from that business was it was kind of challenging to build. And when I got into this business, into the private practice, I was like, oh, this is the shit I know very well. I know this shit like the back of my hand. Now, the menopause stuff and like that's a whole new nuance of learning. And, some of us need to do, like I had to do a lot of remediation on, just going back to relearning things I had forgotten, ASCVD protocols and, shit like that, right? But it's easy. It's like second nature to me because I've done it for so long and I love it, right? It's just there's a flow about it. And
Well, it's not really a new skill. And that's why I think people say a lot. They're like, well, I can't learn Botox in a weekend. It's like, okay, yes. And this is not a completely new career or skill. Like this is one more tool in your toolbox that you're building on. Most of the people we teach have extensive nurse practitioner background. And it's like, well, you already know how to do tons of procedures. You know how to have
yes,
steady hands. You know how to talk to a patient and make them feel supported. You know how to look at somebody
yep,
holistically. Like this is one more skill that you're adding. So you already had the
yes.
strong base of all this, and yeah, you needed to do some specific research in some of these areas. But like, yeah, it's a brush off. It's like an easy skill to add in there.
Yeah. And so, if you look at it that way, it ends up being, it just feels easier to be like, oh yeah, like I already know how to inject. Like all of us you can't be, it's hard to be an NP and not have had some experience with injecting because I am sub Q, like maybe you're doing lidocaine for an IV. Like we all know, many of us know how to use a needle, right? And so you're right, you're just replaying it or repurposing it into a different avenue. And so that's one thing I didn't know. I didn't know it could be easy. And it's funny because after many years of coaching NPs through building private practices and watching them kind of struggle with it, with this one, I was just like, oh shit, like this
What
is
if
not,
what a great question, but what if it was easy?
what if it was easy? And I remember just being, and I'll tell you this, by this practice is by no means easy, okay? Like I've got patients, they love to message me. I like to do customized plans. I have built a service that I love and it's hard, and there's no element, building a business is not always easy. There's a lot of my management and like, just like I feel like I get like a tax form from, state of Ohio like once a month. And every time I cringed, I'm like, God damn it,
Or every time
like
you get anything from the IRS, you're like, oh God,
oh
the
my
day has come.
God. Or
The
an
day has come.
Ohio unemployment fraud alert or some shit. I get this stuff and I just cringe because I'm like, oh God.
I'll
But
have to tell you my subpoena story one day, but keep
oh God. I just had to go down. I got called for grand jury duty.
wow.
Grand jury du I, grand jury duty is twice a week for 16 weeks total.
Oh my
And
gosh.
thank God I was at the end of the pack and they already got all of their jurors and extra jurors by the time they got to me and then they released us. And I was like, praise Jesus.
Wow.
But so no, this kind of like business is, it's an easy business. It's an easy turn. One of my, the gal that I work with, Joey, she says that she's like, it's an easy turn. And it is. It's like, it's a 60-minute visit for
Yeah.
275. And you're gonna get a lot of value out of that visit. And here's the follow-up visit for 30 minutes. Like and here's the membership. There's one membership, that mainly my patients are using. And it's easy. It's not, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It doesn't have to be complex in order to be
Very true.
beneficial, to
It's
run beautifully. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I just think sometimes our brains get the best of us that, it's, with all the bullshit. So,
I love it. I love it. Kind of the last thing I want to dive into before I let you go is tips like how to prepare yourself emotionally, mentally for going into to entrepreneurship journey, starting your own practice as a nurse or nurse practitioner.
I think you better get like a big ass box of tissues. I'm not even joking. I think you should get a big ass box of tissues. I think you should get buy your favorite pair of scrubs, and so that you love your outfit. And so like when you go in to do your work, you're kind of like, well, at least I look good. You know what I mean? The shit may be hard, but at least I mean, like prep yourself for the fact that building a business is complex. And we are all in a client, service-based industry. I'll never forget, like, man, this was like, oh, a million years ago. We were out to dinner one night. It was Monday night, which is industry night, right? And so in the service industry, most of the restaurants are closed. And so that's the night, sometimes the restaurant workers go out. So anyways, we're getting dinner, and the gal, we had gotten a drink at the bar after, and the bartender was like, "Are you in the service industry?" And my mom's a nurse, and she goes, "Yeah, sure as shit we are." And I was like, "Mom," and she was like, "We're in the service industry, let me tell you, okay, and the work we do." And I'll never forget that moment because I thought it's so true. So like prep yourself for the fact that you're in the service industry, you're working with humans, they're very complex, they have lots of thoughts, they have a lot of drama, and we're working with something that usually is very important to them. And right, they wouldn't pay us, they wouldn't come to us if and seek out our support and assistance if it weren't. And so with that great responsibility comes great power, or with great power comes responsibility. And so I think it's just like think about like what kind of experience you want to have with it. Like, do you want to be the CEO who is kind to herself? Or do you want to be the CEO who's a total asshole to herself? Like, do you want to be what kind of experience do you want to have, right? Because we've all already established the work, it's complex and it's hard sometimes. The IRS, mailers come and you have to open them. Well, you don't have to, but I highly advise that you do, right? But, it's like, so what do you want to do? Get your tissues, get some Motrin, have yourself, get yourself your standing desk and a little desk treadmill like I have, so that at least when you're doing the work, you can get your steps in, for God's sakes.
Mhm.
Um, work with the humans, try to find the incredible humans that you desire to work with so that you can tolerate the humans who come into the business with all of their thoughts and all of their feelings and the reasons why they shouldn't be charged this. I just had a patient, she's been on my membership for 9 months. And this month is the first month she goes, I got billed this month. I'm like, you've been
Yeah,
getting
you're
billed.
gonna be real unhappy when you look at the other months.
I'm like, so let's just double check. I'm like, just this is what I have on my billing, sheet for you. It's monthly, it's auto pay. It just goes out to her. And I was just like, and she goes, well, but I didn't see you. And I was like, yeah, I don't think maybe this was clear, which is that it's a membership. It's like the gym. If you don't use it, you still pay for it. Do you know, like it, you pay for access whether or not you use it, So it's like these are the moments that will drive you to have a lot of cocktails, to have a desire for adaptogenics, CBD, marijuana, and booze at the end of the night. And so get yourself prepped for it. Like, find a good bestie and learn to manage your stress with things that aren't harmful, like walking, and put yourself around people who also get it, to whom you can, bitch and moan a little bit, and then choose kind of how you want to be in the midst of doing something that is challenging. I honestly, it's the best. It's like all the other stuff you can learn. You could YouTube, you could Google it, you could figure it out, but like, man, it's really hard to build a business if you constantly berate yourself, if you absolutely, you get frustrated with all the patients, you don't set any boundaries, you're constantly people pleasing. Like, just like, let's just
Anybody watching
like,
and be like, check, check, if I'm doing that, I'm doing that. Yeah, we're
yeah.
couple things that you said in there that really stood out to me. One, I want to see if I am summarizing some of what you said right. It's kind of like becoming successful and making that, getting those first clients, making some of that money doesn't actually have to be as hard as you think it might be. But
Hmm.
what is going to be really hard, no matter what, is the kind of, I always interpreted like how much we care about our business, right? And like the
Hmm.
toll that it does take if you have a client who gripes about the $100 a month or whatever it is. And that there's some elements of it that are much harder than you expect. And then there's
Hmm.
some elements of it that are not as complex and hard and as you
Hmm.
expect them to be.
Yeah. It's just,
The other,
I even think like it's the same conversation I like to have with people about going to the gym. It's like, if you want to become the person who like loves to go to the gym, and you are the person right now who can't even fathom going to the gym 4 times a week, like good luck, buckle up, because the process of you becoming that individual who loves the gym 4 times a week, you may never get there. You may get to be the person who 50% of the time you wake up and you're like, it's 5:30, fuck my life. I just want to go back to bed and I don't want to go in the gym and lift, which is my experience, right? And I also love how my arms look. And I love the fact that my chest is super built up right now. And I can walk around and I have this feeling like people don't fuck with me anymore. Cause like I literally, my chest feels like it is so big and built. And I love that. I love how powerful that feels. And it still sucks.
yeah,
So
true.
like, right, do you know what I mean? So like, but and I don't love, right? This morning I went to work out and I was like, oh my God, resistance training. Ugh. It's still hard. So it's like, who do you want to be? Do you want to, okay, so if today was super hard, a heavy lift day, we did heavy lift day today. So like, who do you want to be tomorrow? Do you want to be kind to yourself? Do you want to just nourish yourself, a little bit extra sleep, a little bit extra, protein, a little bit extra, just like TLC, right? Like it's there, this there's a lot of so many big feelings, I think. And like it's, we're doing things that are new to us, we're doing things that are old to us. And so again, but it's this whole process of change. And so it's always this question of like, then how do you want to do that? What kind of experience do you want to have while you are on this roller coaster ride? Like, do you want to wear depends when you shit your pants, it's not like flying up your back like it did with the kids when they had like shit back. Like, what do you want to do? Do you know what I mean?
I do. I like it. I was keeping thinking two things. One is I'm really afraid you're going to make me work out when we're at the conference. And two, two is it jumped out to me earlier when you said just having other people to talk to who gets it and like that community of other
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and like I've been lucky enough to find that in so many places. You know, you are one, Suzanne is another. We have a very tight little group of four of us that talk almost daily. Um, but I also joined an entrepreneurship group here in Richmond that's local and it's nobody else in aesthetics. It's just other business owners. We all have the same problems. So
Yeah.
that's what the injectables EDU community is amazing for and intended for and why it was built too. But it's so much more fun to do this with that network and
Yeah.
your business, as much as it will bring you grief, should also bring you that much joy. It's like raising a child. The highs are high and the lows are low. But ultimately, if you're lucky enough to have a great partner in raising them, like that makes it all the much more fun too.
Yeah. I love it. I think your conference is a great example of that. I mean, it's just a fun, it's a great conference in general. And as you know, those take a lot of time and effort to do well and to pull off. But it's a wonderful opportunity to stop and pause and just be around people who get it and to just have, just the opportunity to share. And I always laugh because I think we very much underestimate if you put 10 brains in a room and we all of a sudden use 10 brains to solve a problem. I mean, we've 10x'd the brain capacity in that space. And so the thinking that comes out of it is 10x.
Yeah,
And like, why
especially the
would,
mastermind we do. We definitely saw that.
yes,
It's a very different vibe conference. It's very open. It's small. It's not your typical aesthetics conference where people are there to be seen. It's like people are genuinely there to find that community because it's lonely being a business owner until you really find your people. Um,
hmm
well, on that note, how can anybody follow up with you? How can they learn more about your coaching? How could they reach out with a question? What's the best way?
The I have a free training that's good. It's how to make more money in your private practice, and it's on nurseslivingthegoodlife.com. So that's the name of our program. So go to www.nurseslivingthegoodlife.com and get the free training. You'll get hooked up onto our email list, and then you can find me on Instagram, annkonkoly.np. If you have questions or concerns, whatever. I hear it all. Okay. Oh, that's what we are when we're open for business. We open ourselves to all of it. So, but no, um, but those are probably the two good ways to get into our community. So,
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for chatting with me today. It is always a pleasure. I can't thank you enough for coming to talk at the conference because you're such an amazing, just a gifted, enthralling speaker to watch. And that's a true, as somebody who also speaks, I watch you and I'm like, hashtag goals. That'll never happen for me, but I will always try. But it
we
is,
got to get you in the gym. See that maybe
yes,
that's where we got to
the
get you
gym might be
pumping some
more
iron.
yeah, it might be more realistic goal for me, but it's really a joy when people are just such gifted speakers to watch them talk, and you certainly are in that category. So I can't wait for
Thank
it
you.
to see you.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual and I love it. I'm excited to come to Lake Nona again. It was just a lovely, experience. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye, Ann.
Bye.